This is Unit 4 of my Introduction to Business class semester, and this unit is all about employee behavior and motivation, understanding people to build better businesses. The essential question, which is the question that I'm hoping my students can answer by the end of the unit, is as follows. Why does understanding employee behavior and motivation matter in business? The objective, here's what I want them to learn. Students will explain how personality types and motivation impact employee behavior and business success. If you're one of my teacher friends out there using this content, this is a overview of all of the information that goes on within this unit, as well as the activities and guided notes and all of the other features. I have my students open by drawing something that makes them happy. I use a program called Pear Deck. It's an extension that links onto Google Slides where my students can draw on the slide and then I can share it with the class. I do share the drawings anonymously so nobody knows what anybody else drew. And students like this. It's kind of an entry level, warm, soft opening to things that bring them joy. Which brings me to the agenda. This is what we cover throughout the unit: employee behavior, your personality type, motivation, and group project. These are all hyperlinked, and if students are using the Pear Deck, they can access the guided notes from here. They can also access it in Canvas, or depending on where it is that you are using this, possibly Google Classroom or somewhere else. In my class, I use Canvas. There's also a quiz that accompanies this, and if you're a teacher, there's an answer key that also accompanies that. We begin the unit with describing a time that a student received excellent customer service. What do you think caused the service to be so good? Again, a Pear Deck slide where students can interactively type in what it is that they experienced. And the hope with this whole thing is just to get them thinking about, yeah, I did have great customer service, followed by a time where they had terrible customer service. What caused that service to be so bad? Was it the employee? Was it employees? Was it understaffing? Maybe management was at fault. Maybe it's the business model. Maybe it's the operations of the business. Maybe it's so many factors that are out there. It's just getting the students to start thinking about customer service as a whole. And much of that is often going to be driven by employee behavior. Google defines employee behavior as the way that employees act to influence business effectiveness. I show students this quick commercial. It's from YouTube. It's actually obviously staged, but pretty funny because this almost exact thing has happened to me where I walk into a big box building store like a Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, not trashing them, but walk in there and I just, to save my life, can't get some help, whether it's something that's high up that I need someone with a forklift to be able to access or something along those lines. This video is kind of a spoof of it, and students kind of laugh at how silly it is, but I enjoy it. These are the counterproductive behaviors of employees, and we go over each one individually. So here we go. We start with absenteeism. I have on each of these students think of a time, again, Pear Deck, or also, you could have them raise their hands or use equity sticks if you use popsicle sticks for that, or you could popcorn it, or however else you want to do it. I have students think of a time where uh, they might see a reason as to why an employee might frequently be late or call out from work. It gets them thinking about it before I go and define it. As an example, I have students think about imagining an employee who frequently calls out on busy days. The rest of the team has to pick up the slack, service gets slower, customer wait time is longer, and over time, morale is going to drop within the the employee environment and the overall business culture, if you will, because people feel overworked. Employee turnover, I have students think, why might the rate at which employees leave a job or are replaced be high or low? You could also look at it from the other perspective and be optimistic here. Why is it that there is so much turnover or so little turnover? I give them another example. Think of a workplace where employees quit every few months. New hires constantly need training, which then is going to slow down productivity. Customers might notice the inconsistency in service because the staff is always changing. Workplace theft. I have students think, can you think of any type of a scenario besides just stealing money that might be considered workplace theft? So I use the example of for possibilities, you work at a restaurant and your friends come in and you give them the employee discount. That's effectively theft. Or maybe instead of clocking out on time, you waited 10 minutes to get a little bit more money on your paycheck and then you clocked out, but you were sitting there lounging for a while. Also, theft. It may not be as severe as taking money, but you are effectively taking money away from that business in their form of time. Sabotage, this is the intentional doing of something to damage the business. So it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be something like intentionally working slowly or messing up tasks on purpose or refusing to help coworkers that you don't like. These actions hurt the team and disrupt the workflow. Harassment or bullying, this is the making of unwelcome and inappropriate remarks. So if employees are making rude comments, excluding coworkers, or creating a hostile environment, people stop wanting to come to work, motivation drops, absenteeism kicks in, productivity falls, turnover increases. They're all intertwined. Workplace violence, this doesn't necessarily strictly have to be somebody punching the other person, but it could just be a threat. It could be to strangers, it could be to customers or coworkers. It can range from yelling and verbal threats to physical aggression. Even if nobody gets hurt, an unsafe environment destroys and makes it impossible for employees to focus or feel comfortable at work. All of this, that's the negative side of it. But if you look at it and flip the script and put it on the positive side of things, we can look at this from the perspective of having happy employees. If you can counteract all of that, limit all of those things that create that work culture where people don't want to be there, if you can get your employees to be happy, my bet is that you're going to have happy employees, happy customers, and happy business owners. So if your employees are happy, your customers will be happy. If your customers are happy, the business owners are going to be happy too. So will the investors and the other stakeholders that we learned about a few units back. These are all things to think about. And the opposite is true too. If you have sad or negative or angry employees, you're probably going to have sad, angry, or negative customers as well as business owners because the numbers aren't going to keep moving in the direction that you want them to. This is all directly tied to workplace culture and expectations. Workplace culture is the shared values, behaviors, and environment that shape how employees interact and work together. Positive culture increases motivation and reduces counterproductive behaviors. Here's an example. Positive workplace culture might include teamwork, open communication, and respect among employees. It's not just having a pizza party to have a pizza party. It's the idea of sharing positive versus negative cultures. Hopefully, something within your school, if you're a teacher out there, is something that is positive. Like, for example, our team, we have a collaborative end of semester party every single year, as well as the beginning of the semester party, too. And it seems like people seem to get along there, as well as our PDs are not overly intrusive of our time and wasteful of a bunch of fluffy stuff that doesn't necessarily help us in teaching, but helps us get to know each other so that we can collaborate and work better together. And if I see somebody in the hall in passing that's not even in my subject matter, it puts me in a situation to where I can at least say hi and not make it awkward or weird for that matter. I share this quote in every one of my units. One thing that most successful businesses share in common is that they solve people's problems at a price that they are willing to pay. And so, in order to solve these problems, more than likely, we need to motivate our employees to meet the needs of those employees, to create purpose in the work so that we can foster that employee and customer and company culture. I have students start thinking about questions to ask themselves as an entrepreneur. In my class, students take on the role of a business owner, of an entrepreneur. We're writing a business plan throughout the entire semester long. And so in this situation, I have them think about, why do customers want or need their product? Why are their employees happy or sad? Besides money, what is something an employer can do to make their employees happy? Now, obviously, we could say increase their paycheck, make benefits better, but what else could they do? It doesn't have to just be monetary. Maybe perhaps it's revamping and stocking up the employee break room. Maybe it is shout outs each week to a different person. Make sure that the manager has a running tally of who has been shouted out so that nobody gets left behind, because that does happen. And I don't want to see that happen to anybody else. So flexible scheduling. People have lives outside of work. They have kids, they have events, they have weddings, they have stuff to go to, recognition, growth opportunities, a clear cut pathway how to get promoted if that's something that they are looking for. Personality types is all tied to this too, because In order to fulfill a person, they have to have the right personality type for the job to meet that expectation so that that company culture can remain positive and nobody's absent and nobody is stealing. And all of this works out in a way that just flows. And so I have students think about what is something about their personality that makes them unique. And this could be something silly. Honestly always do this as something silly. I give them a goofy example of I can talk to anybody. I'm overly critical of my performance. I don't take the easy way out ever. And then here comes the goofy part. I have to drive at miles per hour in increments of 5, or the radio has to be on an even volume. I know those are silly, but it gets students thinking, yeah, this is kind of a quirk about me. All of that to be said, to where I then have my students take a personality type indicator called Myers-Briggs type indicator. Also, I'm going to give you the acronym of MBTI, and it's a questionnaire that is used to assess personality types. It takes about 7 minutes. I have the students take the test now. If it's Pear Deck, they can just click on the link right there. If you're not using Pear Deck, then you could use the guided notes, and the link is within the guided notes too. And I have students take this very seriously in a quiet environment because I get the same result every single year, and this works really well for me. For some students, it may not work that well, and this is where I pull them in the Pear Deck. Again, they have an ability to put it worked really well or no, it didn't work well at all. If you're not doing Pear Deck, you could do like a fist of 5. So 0 didn't work well at all. 5, it's an exact spitting image of me. So 0 is not at all. 5 is completely accurate of how accurate that MBTI was for you. In again Pear Deck, I have my students then drag their cursor over whichever one of the personality types they landed on so we could see what is the makeup of our room. How many students share something in common? I, every single year, land on ENFJ, the protagonist, the main character, if you will. And it's silly, but I really am. I would actually argue I'm mildly introverted, but extroverted by force, but that's a different conversation. What motivates our employees or people in general, just us as humans, the reason one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. This is the introduction to our discussion of motivation, the motivation to want to show up to work, the motivation to not steal from your employee, to not harass other people, the motivation to do the best that you can. What are the internal and external forces that drive those behaviors that motivation influences? Because this is going to influence the productivity, attitude, and job satisfaction. I have students tell me, what motivates you? What keeps you going? Is it parents? Is it guardians? Is it your dog, your little brother, your little sister? Is it good grades and hopes of going to the college you want to go to, or aspiring for a specific career, or whatever that may be, or financial freedom? The list is limitless. I show them this brief video from the folks at Crash Course Economics, does a good entry level opening to the power of motivation. Clear goals equals stronger motivation. Employees are motivated when they know what they are working towards. Businesses use aims and objectives, or goals, if you will, to set direction, measure success, and keep employees focused and engaged. The aims and objectives slide right here gives them an example for a big coffee shop. I'm not going to name any specific big coffee shops, but I'm sure you could think of one. Provide, if the aim, the goal, the thing that they're trying to accomplish is to provide faster, consistent service while growing the business through improved customer experience and employee development, they can't just say, this is what we want to do. We have to chunk it out. So in the short term, we want to do this. In the medium term, first year, we want to do this. In the long term, 1 to 2 years plus, what else do we want to do? So if I'm somebody that wants to make this change, if my aim is to provide faster, consistent service while still growing, maybe I want to improve drive-through speed by 10% in the first 3 months. The medium term is to launch a new, or actually, let's use a better one, increase employee retention by offering more flexible scheduling, making sure that people can live their lives outside of work. Long-term goal could be expanding mobile ordering and pickup locations to develop leadership, and also develop leadership pathways for baristas that want to level up. Why do the aims and objectives improve employee motivation? Because clear goals help employees with many different things. It reinforces that goals help employees understand expectations, track progress, feel purposeful. This is the final reinforcement before transitioning into motivational theory. It helps Those employees connect daily tasks to bigger purpose, build a more organized and supportive workplace, increase confidence and sense of achievement. Now we move into the motivational theory called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In the guided notes, I refer to this as MHON for the acronym. And here we go. Again, in the Pear Deck, I have students drag their numbers. They have 5 little numbers that they can drag around as to which is the most important for them to acquire, down to the least important for them to acquire. And the hope is this is like an anticipatory set for them to see what is coming next with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The image right here is linked to a video which I show in class. The link is also in the notes of the slide deck as well. Once I show this video, we go back over the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the different tiers. And the general idea is this, that you can't even worry about your safety until your physiological needs have been met. For example, if I can't breathe, I don't really care about my employment. If I going up the rung for safety, if I don't feel like my family is in a good place, then I'm probably going to be not worrying so much about self-esteem in the esteem section. If my self-esteem is feeling pretty good and I'm feeling good about myself and I feel achievement in my workplace and I'm confident and I respect others and I'm respected by others, then and only then can I reach that self actualization tier where I can be creative and spontaneous and solve problems and I can accept facts for what they are. This is the general idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At this point, I show students a introductory section to a project that they'll work on in a group. I have them do it in groups of 2 to 3, no more than 3, because there always tends to be a fourth person that is an anchor, for lack of better words. I give them all of this example, and then I model the expectations with that teacher's modeled slide deck down there. I go through the criteria and how it is graded. The students will then create their commercials. I show them a few examples. This is also hyperlinked, this image right here, to a student's example. It is worth noting, if you're one of my teacher friends out there, the link is going to take you to my Instagram page. I formerly ran a business called Feldman Home Services, and so it's kind of a weird collaboration video, but if you kind of fast forward through the first X amount of seconds, you'll find yourself to the actual commercial component of a student that produced a very high caliber quality commercial that meets all of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I also provide students with commercial recording hall passes. I print these out, and in fact, on the next slide, you'll see that I printed them in smaller sections so that when you print, instead of having to do it in one per sheet, now I've got 4 per sheet, makes it more efficient, less environmentally insensitive. And then from there, now that I've printed these, I hand them to the groups. They write their names on it. I put the date on there before I print, and then it puts them in a situation where they have the onus on them to make sure they're making good decisions and following school rules and going through all of the techniques that we expect at our school with high expectations. Folks, that is the end of the employee behavior and motivation unit. I appreciate you sticking with me throughout the entire section here. And if you're one of the teachers out there, I appreciate you for teaching the most valuable classes on campus.